Can you
Yeah,
hear me now?
good.
All right, what's up, man? How you doing?
Great, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
Hey, no problem at all.
Glad we can get this done. I know you're a busy man and everything with the camp and everything. So,
Yeah. Multiple things. But yeah.
um,
Yeah, for
you just
sure.
came back from what, a jiu-jitsu tournament in Georgia, I saw.
Yeah, IBJJF, like Pan American World Championship. So yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh
I
my God,
just
leading
got
by
back.
example in your classes.
Yeah, I know. It was good, man. I haven't fought in a year, so I mean, obviously my background is wrestling and then I started doing jiu-jitsu, then I started boxing. So with the pandemic and me owning a wrestling club, I stayed focused on my kids so they can get their scholarships for college. So which means I had to sit out for a year for fighting. So I wanted to knock the rust off. So the best way to do it is to face the best in the world in grappling and ended up taking a big world title at the same time. So
There it is.
yeah. It was good, man.
Like, talk about balancing your time. Holy crap! First fight, first time wrestling in 2 years. So,
Well, I'll say I wrestle every single day because I own my club, like, and plus it's big a part of my game. Like I have a Khabib style, right, and stuff like that. But I say first time doing the jiu-jitsu tournament probably like 8 to 9 years. But when I left the sport, I was like the top rated guy though.
yeah.
Yeah. So like 9 years or so.
Oh my gosh. So let's get right into it then, because again, I'm very curious and very pumped to talk to you about some of your experiences that you've had. I mean, when it comes to wrestling, because like, is it different between fighting and wrestling when it comes to the disciplinary stuff, when it comes to training and diets and everything, or is it?
Pretty it's the same, but like I would say, like me coming from a wrestling background, I mean I've been wrestling since I was 5. I and then I went to Lindenwood just because like I didn't have the grades. I had horrible grades, and then finally going to Mizzou and like yeah, and then like having Tyron Woodley and Michael Chandler being like my boys and stuff like that, and then Missouri is submitted. Just the culture is just like being in the Midwest is just wrestling. Like, so like my wrestling coach was a junior Olympic wrestling coach for the United States. So like, so yeah, like the discipline level is extremely high. The training regimen of training twice a day, 3 times a day. So like when I got into the sport of like mixed martial arts, it was, I wouldn't put like a breeze, but like I would say like knowing like jiu-jitsu guys or kickboxing guys and wrestling guys, like they don't know the proper way of cutting weight or like dieting to get to that point and stuff like that. Uh we're on that higher level of that and just staying disciplined and stuff like that. So it was I would say it was a very good transition. It was a very good transition getting to that point.
Right, you had like the muscle memory per se.
No, for sure. Of like the training schedule and just being at a high level and practicing twice a day and stuff like that. Like that was just easy. Like that's just like I can do that all day, every day.
Wow. So you must really, really love this. No, like no questions asked there. Like you are not like wrestling, I feel like was your first love, and then you stumbled upon MMA through experiences that you had. When did
Yeah,
you first get into wrestling? Was it high school? Was it
five,
5 years old?
5 years
So
old.
how did
Yeah.
that like what was like the first thing you're like, this is fun? This is what
I mean, I when I started, I sucked. So like I was crying and stuff
naturally.
like that, and then I it was my mom. I had a single mother. I was like adopted, and my adopted mom Katie was a world class athlete. Like she was a world class swimmer. Um, uh, and she kind of instilled in me just like, hey, like if you stick with something, you can't quit. And I started losing, and I used to cry all the time when I used to lose, and she's like, hey, that feeling, it sucks, you just got to get better at it. And then at that point I became like the top kid of the country of just like destroying everybody and entering tournaments. And at one point, every tournament I entered, I was just in the finals. I was either winning it or I got second. And then after that, I got into jujitsu. getting like in college, like leaving college a little bit, and then while in college, I actually had my first amateur fight, and then that's when I left college to pursue MMA full time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What was the first kind of culture shock, shell shock moment for you making the switch? Because you said like the training regimens were pretty similar. At least you knew what you were doing as opposed to someone else who was, freshly starting out. Like what was like the
Right.
first big, quote unquote, no pun intended, punch in the face moment?
When I actually got punched in the face in sparring,
Go.
like that was just different. That was that was the hardest transition for me. Like jujitsu was, I ain't gonna say like it was an easy transition, but it's a form of grappling. Like, like it's just like I've been wrestling, I can control somebody from wrestling, but now we're just adding in submissions and stuff like that. So that was easy to pick up. Like I won a world title in jiu-jitsu before, like I'm a world silver medalist in jiu-jitsu. I won a world like it's that grappling is grappling, like, but different art. But punching took a while, took a long time, man. Like it took a while just to get used to it, and then after I got used to it, it was just like everybody knows I wanted to get the fight to the ground. So I took a couple of strikes and stuff like that. Now it's a little bit better. Now, like, I mean, my boxing's up there. I even fought in Glory Kickboxing on ESPN, for crying out loud. So like my striking has came a very long way. I'm extremely comfortable being on the feet now. It took, I would say, a decade to try to just get there at that moment, man. Like yeah, dude. Like I mean, I sparred people from Wild Card Boxing, for crying out loud. I know you have the Mayweather hat on and stuff like that. Like I had guys from that era and stuff like that. I'm extremely comfortable on the feet, but man, it just takes a long time to just get adjusted. Like, like, and they were talking about angles and setting traps and stuff like that. So that was a shell shocker. So like my first amateur fight was in Eureka, Missouri at a Motel 6, and I fought an undefeated guy, and I ended up knocking him out. And on the ground, like I took my shots on the feet, and I was like, I'm getting ready to get knocked out right now, and then I took him down, and then from there he didn't have anything, and then I ended up taking him out from there. But like it was that, man, and then also like the weary of like, okay, I've been hit with boxing gloves, but I haven't been hit with MMA gloves, and it's just different. It's honestly very different. So yeah. It just takes a while, man. Like combat sports just take a minute. So yeah.
Do you remember your first fight like crystal clear in your
Yeah,
mind? Everything that
absolutely.
happened that day?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and then when I look at the videotape, I was like, why they fucking put me in there? Like, it was bad to the sense like I knocked the guy out twice and ended up retiring because I found out that my opponent and the referee were friends.
Oh wow.
So he was supposed to be like a purple belt or something like that in jiu-jitsu. They told me he was good. And I took him down. And I'm like, well, I was just like, fuck, I'm gonna take him down and get submitted. Didn't do anything, and I passed his guard. It was pretty simple, and then I got mount and I kept on hitting him, and I knocked him out. And he was doing this thing like when you hit him, and they didn't stop the fight, and I ended up going for a submission on his arm. His arm popped, didn't tap, and then I went back to hitting him in the face, and then they finally stopped the fight. At a
Wow.
yeah. I remember Eureka, Missouri. My locker room was in the kitchen. It was in the conference room of a Motel 6, so a nicer Motel 6. I had no money at the time because I'm fighting amateur, and then afterwards I went out to Applebee's to celebrate, and I got to pick anything that I want to eat because all my teammates and coaches were covering it, and it was like one of the greatest nights of my life. So
That
yeah,
was
it
big
was
time.
extremely memorable. Yeah, for sure, extremely. Yeah.
So going from that to where you are now, not only getting to the point where you're a professional mixed martial art fighter in
Mhm.
Bellator and other promotions, but you're also training and teaching the youngsters as well, which has to be
Yeah.
fulfilling as hell as well. So, looking back at your beginnings, at what point did you realize that you wanted to give back to the younger generations yourself?
Just because of my upbringing, man. Like I mean, I grew up like homeless in homeless shelters,
Yeah.
and me and my mom had a bad start. My biological mom had a bad start, and it took me getting like adopted by my mom's best friend Katie to bring me on to really show me like what a life is supposed to be raising a child, and I know that different people had different circumstances, but like Mine was pretty bad for sure, man. Like, and I had to have a village help me out and help me, you know. So it's always been really important to me because I would not be here today if it wasn't for those people that really, really helped me, man. And I remember my pay-per-view fight, my debut fight. I was main event, like the biggest pay-per-view card in Bellator's history, and it was my first fight. And I just went back to the same homeless shelter that I was raised and bought all the tickets so the kids can show, you know, you go into different circumstances when you have some of these motivational speakers like come in and like they're like, oh, you can do it, just believe and achieve. And then they're like, but you don't know what it's like to walk in my shoes, right? Like it's hard to fucking do that, right? Like, and teachers are like, oh, like you can do it, you can. I'm like, you live in a fucking suburban neighborhood. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, but like I've been there, I've done that. I wore the same handy down clothes. I know what it's like, you know, like you know, like, so truly, if I can do it, like, hey guys, like, that's why it was so important to go back there. Like, you can do it. Like, I, I just remember that stadium. Like, I couldn't afford a ticket to get in there. And then like, I was like headlining on the fucking prelims of that stadium, you know, like it was truly important. So like, I truly believe like in this world, like you really need people and mentors to help get you where you're at today, right? Like I had a lot of people like I had like Tyron Woodley, I had Chandler, I had Tony Ferguson, I had RDA. Like I helped them out, but they really helped me out. Like they needed help from my wrestling aspect, but at the same time, like their level of fighting was at a championship level, right? Like so I pulled like a little bit mindsets from them to help me mold me into the person I am today, right? Like that's just life, you know? And I just believe sometimes like in the industry, like there's people that just rip fucking ladders away from people when you know that some people help, right? And they think that they're too good for them. Like I'm not that fucking guy. Like, you know, so like I know the impact of having somebody help you because like it can truly change your life. I would not be here today if it wasn't for those people. So like it's dude, like it's my fucking duty like here on earth to definitely help out others for sure.
It's easy to talk, but hard to walk the walk in that sense, right?
I absolutely walk to walk it's reason why I did do that, like I selfishly because I haven't fought in a year. Reason why I did that jiu-jitsu because like my next fight is kind of going to be probably against a ranked guy and tough guy. So that's why I entered the best jiu-jitsu tournament in the world, right? To do it. And like, hey, I walked through and I won. But like it wasn't fucking easy. Like, you know, like I had to cut 27 pounds to fucking do it. I still had to cut 3 pounds. I had to show up on I haven't did the same day weigh-ins in like 15 years, but all my ranked kids and all my kids are going through it, right? Like it's man, it's hard to lead a ship if you haven't been through fucking storms, right? Like, you know, so like I had to put myself in the fire to be like, hey, I know what it feels like, right? Like steps A to B to try to help, you know? So like it's very important for me to lead by example for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to be inspired by stuff, but when shit hits the fan and your back's against the wall and you fail repeatedly over and over again, like you were saying, like those either rich suburban people or like those well more off people that quite frankly don't have the back, motivation behind,
Right.
What they went through growing up in a situation like you did, like this is what I have to do, this is what I want to do, and I'm
Right.
not only doing it for myself, but I'm doing it to set an example. I'm here to lead by example for
Right.
not only friends, family, those who have helped me along the way, the mentors that you mentioned, but also the kids that you're teaching and mentoring today.
Yeah, no, it's huge, man, and it's huge. And just saying, like, hey, if you do live in a suburb, my best friend lived in a suburban neighborhood, right? You know, but he was the house that, like, fuck, you have food, like, damn, dude, you have a snack cabinet, don't know what that is, right? Like,
Yep.
we're still best friends to this day. And to be completely honest, like, if I have kids, they're gonna live in a suburban neighborhood, right? They're gonna be like, that's the reason why you just want more for your kids than you want for yourself, right?
Exactly.
And it's the same thing for all my kids. Every kid and everybody that walks through my doors and steps on my mat, I want more than I want for myself, and I'm really to help out and get you there, you know. And I think it's very, very important that we just have people like me, like more in the world, and they're out there, and just kids just need to search and look, man.
Oh
So
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
you said your passion for what you do now started when you were 5 years old. Was
yeah,
that just intuition? Like, because now, you have to surround yourself with the right people to get there, like
no,
obviously,
for sure.
I mean, I've read all about it, you know, surrounding yourself with the wrong people, admittedly starting out, learning from your mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about some of those guys, Tony Ferguson, among others, that
Yeah.
kind of helped each other out along the way to get to where you wanted to go. How early on did you kind of know that mentality of like, okay, like I want to be the best and this is kind of how I have to do it? Like you didn't have all the answers, obviously, as a kid.
I didn't, but like my mom was like a pretty much like I would say like an Olympic swimmer. So like she knows the dedication of like trying to get somewhere, and she taught me that like dude, she never missed a swim, like sick, whatever, like, and that's what molded my base of like it doesn't matter, like, hey, if you're not feeling well, you gotta fucking do it, you know, like you know how it is, bro, like if like just said like if you travel and stuff like that, like fuck, do I really gotta do this interview today? Like you gotta fucking do it, right? Like it's just that's what motivated me from the very first place. Like it doesn't matter if I lose or not, like hey, like I gotta do this. And also the sport of wrestling, man, like I was the one that played multiple sports. I'm a huge sports guy. I love football. I love watching football. I'm a big fantasy guy. I'm a big Rams guy. I'm a big Cardinals guy. I'm a big Blues guy. Like that's my city of St. Louis. I live out here in Cali now, so like I still. I mean, Rams followed me out here, so
Right, there
I'm a
you
huge
go.
Lakers guy. Like I love all sports in general. At a very young age, I figured out how some of it is a lot of fucking politics, man. Like, oh, I'm on the football team, but little Jimmy's playing quarterback. He fucking sucks, but it's because his coach, like his dad's the fucking coach,
Yep, there it is.
like it's so like, so like I started understanding the part, but it was my mom that kind of pointed out like this is bullshit. Like why? Like, and then also too, like I had a fucking like, okay, like I had 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. We still fucking lost. Like, like it was like, and like, dude, I am down for team building and stuff like that. Cause like I said, it takes a village and I need other people to help succeed. But when I'm out on that wrestling mat, like if I lost or win, that's on me, you know, that's on me. And that's what I really loved and respect. Like dude, I just don't like depending on others. I know you need help from others, but like when it comes down to really getting the work done, I need to get the work done, right? It ain't on you, it ain't on me, it ain't on him. Like it's up to me. And that's what like wrestling really like changed my life in that. And that's when I really gravitated to that, because like when I started winning matches and stuff like that, I'm like, all right, like I did this, like, and it was just really important. And honestly, it was just really big for like just life, just in general, and stuff like that. Like, hey, like when I was an amateur, like I worked normal jobs. I did it all. I worked at the 24-hour fitness. I worked for Loomis Security Arm Truck and stuff like that. Like it's just like, hey, on those days and stuff like that, when you're like grinding and stuff like that, so like fuck, I gotta go to work. Like, hey, you do, like, like there ain't mom and dad's not gonna be here forever. All these people ain't gonna be here forever. You got to do stuff for yourself, and that's what really helped me out.
So did you play other sports growing up and kind
I
of
did.
because
I
I'm
did.
in the same boat, like
I
when it
did.
comes to like in-town politics, the
Yeah.
like if you weren't friends with them, you were screwed.
Dude, I know, bro. It fucking sucks, bro. Like it's dude, like it blows, it sucks. That's why like I think that's why my club is really special, because I don't care if you're the number ranked kid to like the kid that's unranked. Everybody gets treated like everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody gets treated like everybody. I'll spend as much time as you as I spend with him, right? And stuff like that. And I also teach my kids that's like, hey, everybody will have their time. Like if one of them are competing over the weekend, I got invited, we're all acting like we're competed, right? And I don't ever want you to say like I'm spending time with him. It's just his time.
Yep.
You will have your time too, right? And stuff like that. So yeah, man. Like I was a running back in football. I loved it. My favorite running back was Damian Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it. And then obviously, like I'm a big Rams fan. The greatest show on turf, Marshall Faulk was my fucking guy. Mike Allstar. Like I'm a history buff when it comes to sports. And baseball, I played the hot corner. I was a third baseman. Like, yeah, man, those were like my two, like and besides wrestling, like my three favorite sports I played when I was little. I loved basketball, but I'm only fucking 5'9" and I don't have handles. So like, so that was out the question. I was mostly it was weird. I was trying to be inside the paint, and they're like, dude, like you're too short. And I'm like trying to push people in the paint, So like, it just didn't work out, man. Like it just didn't work out at all. And then, hockey, my best friend's parents owned a hockey club. I loved playing goalie. My favorite goalie was Patrick Waugh. I'm a big hockey fan as well. I can actually skate on ice. But I loved playing goalie. But like when you start getting to that upper echelon in hockey, it is fucking expensive, bro. It is fucking expensive, dude. I cannot afford. Hey, in wrestling, I just got to buy shoes and I'm good, right? So, like, that's another big reason why I stuck with that sport as well. But like, it's like when you start going on these traveling teams and stuff like that, you're talking thousands upon thousands of dollars, man. Like, So, yeah. But like, but also too, team sport also did teach me like camaraderie of playing for each other and stuff like that. So, like, it was great, man. It was really good.
And as a wrestler, like you were saying, you're dependent on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You are working towards your own goal. And when you pick up a victory or win after win after win, you're feeding off your own energy, I feel like.
You are.
As opposed to like going 3 for 3 with 3 home runs in baseball and you still lose 11-3, Like
I know.
It's bittersweet.
I know. And then those interviews are always awkward because they're like, you had a great game today, but like your team lost. You're like, yeah, I did have a good game. And like,
yeah, your teammates are looking at like,
yeah, I know. Yeah, dude, it's kind of fucking awkward, Like, yeah. So like, I used to be in those scenarios too. Like, you just rushed for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns, and still got blown out. So how you feel? And I'm like, oh, I did amazing, but you can't really fucking say that. I'm like, yeah, it was a tough one for us, and we got to get back on track, and it's awkward, it sucks, So yeah, wrestling, I really loved it, but when you start getting the echelons in wrestling, you really need to have really good training partners as well, and stuff like that. So when you start making like world teams or cadet teams, like in that room's a bunch of killers, like you guys always pushed each other, and always telling my kids that like, hey, like I fortunately have like some of the best kids in Southern California. So always when new kids come in, it's a rough transition for them. Just because I haven't seen that level, but I'm like, hey, you guys walk through this door because you guys want to get better. It's really important to, I tell them like, hey, I was in scenarios that I was getting picked for all these all-star teams, like, and I couldn't score a point for like months wrestling, and the confidence was just like, fuck, dude, I thought I was good, like, and it sucked, but in hindsight, I realized how much it made me better, because like those guys are winning world titles. I'm like, dude, like I train with the best in the world. Like that means I'm the best in the world and I'm hanging in there, So when kids start transitioning into our club, like that's very big for them too, And I always tell them like, you always want to be beat up. You kind of want to fail in the room. Like it's in the room you want to fail so we can shine out there in the light. So like, yeah, so it was very big for that. And it was very big for my career, that's why I wanted to train with the Tony Fergusons. I wanted to train with the Jake Ellenbergers. I seeked out to train with Mark Munoz. Dean Lister was like my jiu-jitsu coach for like, it was really important for that, but it all stemmed when I was little from wrestling to get to learn that, like like in the room, like some of the kids that in my past I've seen that like wasn't as good, right? Like I seen them, they don't want to go with the best guy in the room, right? They kind of hid in the corner and they want to go with the guy that they can beat up all the time and stuff like that because they're just too afraid to fail in the room and stuff like that. And when you start looking at those kids or like even those people in boxing and stuff like that, like, for sparring rounds, like you telling me like you don't want a chance to spar Canelo or Gennady Golovkin? Like really? Like the only thing you're going to do is get better from it. Like, so what? But people are so afraid to take that leap. Like, that like they're not really going to be anything, dude, when it comes to like making it to the big leagues or the world rankings and stuff like that. So yeah, man. Yeah. So it all stemmed from like that wrestling background and stuff like that. So yeah.
Where do you think the fear or the kind of stem from fear kind of comes from? Because I've always been very curious about people because, there's billions of kids around the world that want to do it, but the second they fail, it's like, oh, I can't do this, and then they themselves up, and then there's that 1 percentile like you who keeps going, and then you kind of not learn to like failure, but obviously you embrace it, and then you just keep pushing forward.
You embrace it, like, yeah. And I also think though too, like I truly believe like it's something like in their life though too, right? Like maybe you don't have like, how to say it, like probably the best parents of support, or maybe it's your coach or something like that, because like, man, like it's every time I failed, like, hey, fucking dust it off, like you got another one, like, you know, like, hey, you like get your fucking mind right, like you ain't out of it, you just lost one, you got to battle back to try to get third place, right? And then hindsight, I see other kids quit, dude, like, you know, and some of them can't take a loss and they don't come back in the room ever and stuff like that, and they're crying, like it's unfortunate, but like I think there's some other aspect of life outside that's not helping them out too, you know? So that's why I think it's so important for them to fail young, like, you know, and they don't get participation fucking trophies. Cause I just think we're in a new generation now that like, fuck, bro, everybody gets it, like, you know, it's bullshit. Like, you know, but at least in wrestling, like if you don't place, you don't get shit.
Yep.
You know, you don't get anything. You know, if you go 0-2, you go 0-2, you're out, you know? And if you lose, you're forced to be like, I gotta battle back. I gotta battle back to get this medal, right? Like that's why I like it so much. Like some of these sports, like everybody gets it, like it's bullshit. Like you didn't do anything. You lost. Suck it up. Like, hey, let's learn from this hurt and let's get better, and let's get better from this experience, right? But they also need the right guidance behind that too. Like when I started getting the coach, I started to realize like, I've been blessed to get coached by the best in the world. I seeked it out. I stayed in hostels to look at the best in the world, to train with the best in the world. And I think that's why it made me a great coach, like coach, and I say / difference maker, right? And Dean was like a really good coach. And I even had Chris Lieben, obviously, right? People think like he's a wild man and stuff like that. He is. Right. Also one of the best coaches I ever had, man. Like breaking stuff down technique wise. He's a really good technician that a lot of people don't see. He just knows what works for him. Right. Yeah. And stuff like that. And truly, like in sports, the number one thing is what works for you. I can't teach this person the same way that I teach you. Right. And stuff like that. And having the best coach in the world made me the best, so I can analyze different types, different personalities and stuff like that. So when my kids quit, like they know it's not over in the game and stuff like that. So I think those people that quit, like they just, bro, like they need a better role model. They need to seek it out, like, you know, and bro, I've been through struggles too. I have losses as well, you know. And I even seeked out a mental coach, right? Like and ever since I did seek out a mental coach and stuff like that, I've been on a big win streak. I've been finishing people. I've been a top ranked guy ever since then. But like, my advice is like to seek help. Like, you know, like it's not a weakness and stuff like that, dude. Everybody needs like those mental, like those mental health, like exercises, strength and stuff like that, and coaches besides just a regular coach as well, you know? So yeah.
I mean, I was going to say, like, you didn't have an easy upbringing, but at the same time, you knew what you wanted, you know? Like, you were able to power through, which helped kind of mold, like, those failures and those experiences that you had. They helped mold you into who you became. And obviously, you take bits and pieces from everybody else when it comes to a certain fighting style. Yep. But you develop your own style along the way. And then you're able to mix and match, and that's what makes you – you know, Ian Butler, like the one true Ian Butler, as opposed to being, you know, the next Tony Ferguson. You know, like who wants to be that when you could be the first version of yourself?
Exactly. You know, like, and then don't get me, like, I also think I got good at, in the Midwest by myself, because I break down a lot of film as well too. Like I love breaking down film. I love like doing stuff. And that's another thing that I think kids need to take from, like, I love my sport, right? I never miss a fight night. I like there's some guys who just like, oh, I don't watch fights and stuff. And I'm like, but you're a fighter. Like what the fuck? Like what? Like, you know? And watching film and watching others, I did be able to take a piece like, oh, like, dude, Roberto Duran's fucking toughness of staying inside the pocket, like, you know, and just like, oh, like Marvin Hagler's fucking jab, the way he just snaps it, you know, and stuff like that. But also was really important, and I learned this at an older age, just like to make sure you transition to yourself, that you still be yourself as well, right? Because you're just quit trying to be like everybody else, right? Like you can take parts of the games, but at the end of the day, when you look at yourself in the mirror, be happy with who you are, be happy with what you added to, and you're gonna be somebody. You're gonna be a name as well, you know, and stuff like that. So yeah, man, yeah, I think that's really, really important.
When did that kind of click for you? Kind of what you just said, early on, self-admittedly again, like kind of was in the wrong crowd at the same time, very disciplined in what you wanted to do. So when did, kind of like,
Yeah, I I will say honestly, well, I think I had different gaps, right? It could have been from wrestling since I was high school, like, all right, I gotta move school to be with better people, right? Or when that article came out when I had an overdose when I was hanging out with bad people in high school, like then I had to hang out with somebody else, right? So I think it came into different gaps in my life, and then it came into different gaps in my fighting career too, right? Like, oh, I'm the top amateur in the country, and then I signed pro, and then I took my first loss in 5 years, and I'm like, well, fuck, now I got to get better. So now I got to move, right? So it came into different spurts, like, and then recently, 5 years ago, was my mental coach of like, after I was on a win streak, I took a loss, and I was like, fuck, dude, I gotta find like I'm so obsessed with like mental toughness, and I took psychology in college, and I'm like, I need a mental coach. My dad, my other adopted dad, is a psychologist, but like I need somebody outside of that, right? That's unbiased, right?
Mhm.
And after getting that, I fired everybody around me, man. Like I was in the gym I was training at, like it was there were some big names there, but like sometimes when you have big names and you're training with them, you are training with the best, but you feel like the attention's not on you, right? And you feel like you're just another number and you're just a body,
Yep.
right? That's how I was feeling, right? Like, let's be honest, when Floyd is getting ready to fight, you're a fucking number. Like, you're just going there to help out, right? This is the Floyd fucking show. When Canelo's getting ready to fight, you're just a fucking number. You're just a body in the fucking room, right? That's how I was feeling, right? And I left that gym and I hired my own coaches that were there for me, that I'm the guy, right? And stuff like that. And then when we did bring people in for work for me, like I know what I said to like, hey, like you're just a number, you're just a body. I didn't make them feel like that though, right? I was just like, hey, thank you for coming in and helping me. And then I truly just built a good team and karate around me, right? Like I live in Southern California. I think like with the TikTokers nowadays and stuff like that, and Hollywood's right down the street, everybody wants to be fucking famous, but you honestly meet some ungenuine people that people just want to get over somebody, right? And from the Midwest, everybody was just smiling and happy-go-lucky and was down to help each other. So with my club and everything I did of hiring these coaches, I just created that community for myself,
Yeah.
you know? So I created the coaches, just, Ian, how you feeling today? How you doing this? How do you sit down, like, and doing this, And one of my good friends is Randy Miller. She ran the Olympic. She's an Olympic bronze medalist in wrestling. She said it was the same thing. When you go to Olympic teams and coaches, like, don't get me wrong, like if Jordan Burroughs is on there, like everybody's paying attention to him, and stuff like that. You do have other Olympians too as well, but like what coach is going to be down for me, right? And there for me. And when she finally found that coach of like, oh, I need to go from the nutritionist because I'm having bad weight cuts, I actually sat there in a meeting with them, right? All those people that she said, I have in my corner as well that I hired out. And ever since then, I just been, I would say unstoppable, bro. Like I've just been stopping people. I've been finishing people at the high level, right? It's not a fact that like I took Bellator losses after losses, and that's when I finally won mines, like, and I didn't give up, and I finally won mines, and I finally broke into rankings, and then I finally came back into jiu-jitsu and won a world title, like, but it's because I had those people around me that were down for me, like, and that's the support system. And I think like if you get into the fight world and stuff like that, I think teams are great and you need a team, you go into the gym, but make sure you have those coaches on the side that is like, when they're in my corner, they're truly down in my corner. When God forbid, if I do take a next fight, let's just say I lose, it feels like I don't because I have a support system,
Yep.
I
mean, that's why you are in the position where you are in right now, because you're able to take things from everybody. You're willing to learn from everybody. There's
Absolutely.
there's no ego involved. You know,
No.
you don't think you're up here and there's people down here. You know, I heard in an interview that you know described ego as kind of edging God out.
Yeah, it is.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
thought like that blew my mind. I'm like, holy crap! Like I want to ask him about that because
Yeah, dude,
it stems from
it's huge. Like so I say 6 years, 5 years ago, I tore my bicep. I had a fight coming up, and I was out for like 8 months before I got married, actually. And I went on my honeymoon. I kind of had a sling and stuff like that. It's because they brought this kid in, and he was swinging like he was like trying to take my head off, right? And for me in the fight world, for people to understand, for me to defend myself, I have to take his head off back. I just can't sit there laboring. And guess what? I threw a big hook and I tore my bicep because I didn't get a proper warm up, because I thought we were going to do a warm up round, but he went at me hard, right? And I just make sure when I bring people in, they have no ego. Check your ego at the door. There's not a lot of kids in my program that don't have big egos. Like it's one of those things that like, hey, this isn't a school when anybody can just join the fucking team, right? And stuff like that. This is a club. Like, I own this business. I can refuse service. If you have an ego, get the fuck out. You know, we don't need that. We don't need that here. You know? And it was really important that I started putting people around me that didn't have any egos. Like I trained with black belts on a regular. I have a guy named Rob that like I think he's like 12-2 as an amateur. He's a black belt under ALJ and the Mendez brothers, and he's about to take a fight soon. And I've been helping out with his wrestling a lot and stuff like that. And I think he's gonna probably sign with ONE FC soon. And good guy. And every time we work, I'm like, look, man. I remember I was like, I'm just coming off the couch and stuff like that. Like I ain't trying to like if you're just gonna try to just put it on me and stuff like that, like if you want it to be like that, then let it, like, you know, just let me fucking know so I can come prepared. He's like, no, man, like no ego. I'm just trying to learn. I'm just trying to work. Those are the only people I'll fucking work with, man. Only people
So
I will
is
work
that
with.
your disciplinary style? Just like if you have an ego, get the fuck out, or like let's say
It
you
is.
see potential in someone and you could tell they're just being insecure. Like, is there another route that you
I
go?
check them. I check them right away. Like I think that we're at a stage nowadays that like people don't check people, right? I check people on Twitter on a regular basis. Like I don't have time for it, but if somebody does come at me and I see something, I'm like, I guarantee if I walked up to you, you wouldn't say that shit to my face, right? I just check them. And then I look at I'm like, oh, so you live in Southern California? Why don't you come in? I have a waiver form. Why don't you come in? And then they're like, dude, I'm just sorry. I'm just like, you have to check people, you know, like you just have to, you know, because like, what is your intentions of you coming in and just be like, oh, I try to beat up, bro. Like, no, bro. Like, if I really want to, it's this is realistic. I can take your life away, you know? Like, there's a referee in the ring for a reason. So if you're unconscious, they stop the fight, you know? And I think people are just like, oh, and they calm down after that. But there's not a lot of people that would tell them the real truth about that, you know? Like, it's that's the number one thing people always ask me, like, oh, if you hang out, like, I'm a very happy-go-lucky person. I get to do what I want for a living. I get to train all day. Like, I love it. I came from the bottom. I appreciate it. I have a lot of gratitude of when I wake up every single day. And they're like, oh, what about fighting situations? Don't seem like you guys do fights. I'm like, but there's a couple of scenarios like, oh, if I got out and this guy's like huffing and puffing, I'm like, dude, you don't want to do this. Like, I just want to let you know, you can Google my name. I'm like one of the top fighters in the world. You don't want to do this. It's like, I don't even care. Oh, blah. And then I'm like, look, bro, in the speech I always give, I'm like, look around. Do you see any refs around here? And they say, no. Like, what's going to stop me from taking your life away? Like, because I just don't fight. I'm also from St. Louis, Missouri. I just don't fight to fight. I need to defend myself, and I need to go see my family, you know? So, and then after that, they calm the fuck down and they walk away, you know? Like, you know, like it's just like, dude, like there's too many assholes in the world. We don't need another one. And that's why I like checking people like it. And when I work with people, that's it. Like, you know, like it just blows my mind that some people just think they can just say some shit to people just out of the brim. Like, you know, like dude, we just don't need that in the world, Jack, bro. We just need good people in the world and create good people in the world, even in combat sports. And I understand selling fights and stuff like that. And when people do talk shit, like, some of that shit's fucking funny to me. Like, you know, like it cracks me up, you know, and stuff like that. But like like I think reason why people get hurt in gyms is because of ego, bro. People honestly really do. Like, or when people get knocked out, like, why is your training partner getting knocked out in practice and sparring, bro? Like, why? Like, I know for a fact Bisping's like ribs were like hurt before the GSP fight. Like, why? You know, it's not worth it. You know, I like Holloway's approach, bro. Like, he's not even barely sparring, like, you know, like, but you need to know if you're going to go hard that like this guy's going to be protected. He's not going to throw knees at my head, which I know some people doing, which is ridiculous, you know. So, but you just need to create that environment for yourself, you know. So yeah, man, that's a discipline I definitely live by. I live by every single day.
I mean, it's baffling to me, you know. So like, the ego's back. Like when you were a kid, when I was a kid, like we thought that was toxic. Like, just think generations from now. I mean, unfortunately.
Oh, dude.
you probably see it all the time in the gym.
Yes. I definitely do. But I will say, like, my situation is different. That, like, I actually have a private gym to train at. So, like, it's not really there anymore, you know? Or sometimes if I do hire a coach, you know, like I have one kid that, like, I ain't gonna say his name, but like I have to check him on a regular basis. Will probably be a better coach in the long run. Mm-hmm. Still learning, right? Still have a little like, oh, like you just think like being a shit out of a kid is it's gonna help him. Like, it's not, right? It's not. And you got to watch what you say when people have losses, when they come off the mats and stuff like that. Like, you know, stuff like that, you know? So I'm trying to mold up and stuff like that. So like, yeah. So like, it's definitely in there. I'm pretty blessed that I don't see it a lot just because like everybody that walks through our doors or the doors I go through are pretty private, that like people are chill, you know, and just like, hey, we're going to get this where we're trying to make each other better. And it goes from there, you know? So
you ever see the inner child come out in you? Because you said that, you know, you were kind of a sore loser when you lost. Is it still that way, or have you kind of, you know, mellowed out?
Yeah. Okay. In different scenarios, like, like when I'm playing Madden online or something like that, like, you know, like, like that training, not so much, you know? I remember like when I was getting back in training camp, it's always rough getting back in training camp. Like, you know, like it's just because obviously it's at a higher intensity, you know? And my boy Jose kept on taking me down. And I thought I was like one of the best wrestlers in the world. Like when it came to like, you know, when it kept on taking me down. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, the training session was over. I'm like, oh, today was a good day. He goes, yeah, it was. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go home and cry myself in the corner now, you know? And he laughed. But I just learned when it comes to training, I don't care if I do get beat up and stuff like that, you know, like, because I know it's a learning curve. And I think that's the one maturity part that I did grow in, like, for sure. Like, because with Dean Lister, I also had a guy named Jocko Wilness, which was my other coach, right? And he had a thing called Good, you know. He was a Navy SEAL. Yep. He taught the movie, I believe it was Sniper Shooter. Like, he taught that guy how to shoot. And he just tells me our training sessions were intense, you know. And he taught me about the thing called Good, right? He goes like, oh, when I was over in Iraq, like, they'd be like, dude, this thing blew up. Now we only have this many surgeries. Like, and he goes like, okay, good. And I'm like, what? And then he's like, oh, damn, dude, like, oh, the tank ran out of gas. We're going to have to move it on foot and stuff like that. And he's like, okay, good. And everyone's like, what the fuck you saying good for? And he's just like, look, if you keep on thinking negative and stuff like that, and you're just going to just dig yourself a hole in the hole, like, you want challenges, you know? Everything that's bad that happens is good.
Yep.
Everything that bad that happens is good. So every time I think of training sessions, like, bam, I got tapped. I'm like, all right, like, hey, we're just closing. And it's something I teach my kids. We're just closing this door so we can be solid and very well-rounded. So anything that bad that happens in my training session is good. Oh, I got hip the left hook. Maybe I need to start focusing on keeping my hand up a little bit more, right? That's good that he checked me there so it doesn't happen out there, right? When the lights really come on, right? Yep. So, yeah, the only inner child that comes out is when I'm playing spike ball with my kids, I'm fucking losing. Or when I'm playing Madden with my kids online, I'm losing. That's like, yeah, you might see a controller thrown on the fucking bed and something like that, or across the room. Like, yeah, like that I get a little pissed off about. But when it comes to training and stuff like that, like, I have a pretty damn good attitude, man. Pretty damn good attitude.
I once threw an Xbox controller at a kid's head. Luckily, he ducked,
Ah!
and it went straight through the window. It wasn't my house.
Oh, dude.
It wasn't even my house. The kid was probably 5 years younger than me.
Oh, fuck, dude. And then I'm really bad if I am spanking you. If you're going off like online, like, what the fuck? I don't know why. I laugh so hard. And then if people get more pissed, I just laugh so hard that this is happening, you know? Like, yeah, man. Like, that's the only time, like, my little, like, sore loser will come out for sure, you know? For sure. When I'm playing games, for sure. You know, like, dude, all the bombs come out, all the F-bombs come out. I'm like, fuck. Like, what the fuck? Like, you know, like everything, you know?
Better
So,
there
yeah.
than,
Better, yes.
or in a ring.
Yeah.
Because, again, like, to go back to failure, that's what's going to humble you, and that's what's going to motivate you to move
Dude.
further. If you
Dude.
won every single fight and just kept winning and winning and winning, eventually you expect it.
You're not going to grow, man. You're not going to grow at all. It's huge. I was at the fight when Mighty Mouse lost to Henry Cejudo. And that was the fight that afterwards I took my loss and I was like, fuck. Like, I was winning the fight, man, to the end. And I had to give the guy props. Like, when you're losing, the guy comes back and like, you got to give them props. You're like, you know, and then I hired my mental coach after that, and I completely changed it to a different person. Like, the person I seen in the mirror were completely different. And then that new person I saw in the mirror, I was fucking proud of, you know? And when Mighty Mouse lost, he goes like, oh, it's just another day. It's just a bad day in the office. It is what it is. I can get back. Like, I don't even, you know? I remember Michael Chandler as well told me, I remember when I lost to Joey Davis and I got that spinning back kick and I lost in 15 seconds. And I trained my ass off of that training camp and brought a lot of guys in. And I thought, like, I was going to out wrestle them and show them what's up. And the one thing I didn't respect was his striking, because I've been striking longer, and he hit me with the spinning back kick right on the liver, and the fight was over. And I was back at the hotel, and Chandler came up behind me and gave me a hug. And he goes, Ian, he goes, you know you're not a quitter, right? You've been through far worse things in life than this. Like, bro, trust me, you're going to get back on it. And he goes like, look, dude, like when I lost to Will Brooks and then I got knocked out, I lost to Eddie Alvarez, then I lost to Will Brooks and I lost to Will Brooks. He goes, I went to 365 days, like almost a whole year without winning a fight, bro. Without winning a fight. I thought about retirement. He's like, dude, keep moving, keep trucking, you know. And I got better from it, man. Like, you don't know what ups are until you have downs. And I think that's really important, you know. And people say like, hey, you learn more from your losses than anything. It's true. And then what I like to also tell kids and tell people, name me one champion that doesn't have losses besides Floyd. But like, you know, but it's rare. But it's rare. It's rare for a reason, though. It's rare for a reason. Canelo lost to Mayweather, like, you know, Gennady Golovkin lost, Lomachenko lost, Kamaru lost. Right? You're talking about the best. GSP lost. You're talking about Hall of Famers. BJ Penn has lost, you know, and their losses were bad, you know. They got taken out. They got finished. Their losses were bad, you know. Everybody has fucking losses, you know. It's what you do after your losses we'll see and determine what a true champion is.
So I'm very curious to hear your answer on this. You know, hypothetically speaking, everything that you've been through in your life, obviously you had the intuition from the start to want to be the best on your own, but you obviously talk about the support system, a heavy key in what you did. Hypothetically speaking, if you didn't have that support system, like on your drive alone, do you think you would have accomplished what you've accomplished in your life so far?
Not at all, dude. To be completely honest, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. Not because the reason why you're talking to me right now, because like I am somebody, right? I am somebody in this world. I'm somebody in the sport. I'm respected by my peers, but I don't think I'll probably even be alive, man. Like, to be seriously, like, especially like with all the worlds going on with, as you see in my background with the Black Lives Matter poster and stuff like that, and being a huge activist in the world, I don't think I'll probably be alive, man. It's really hard for, I think young Black Americans, the single parent growing up in poverty, growing up in a bad neighborhood, like it's either joining the game or doing something, or joining a box before 18 years old, you know. I think that's the path I probably would have been on. I would have been part of the statistic, unfortunately.
So do you think, because obviously the rock bottom moment was, what was it? Your friends hid drugs.
Yeah, friends. Your quotes if you
hung
didn't
out
see
with
me.
at the time.
Yes. Yeah, I think that was one of the rock bottoms I definitely had in my life. The story is like I in high school I was a weed smoker. I drank. My biological mom tried to make up for being a mother by being my friend, which means if you're my friend, you're not really disciplining me for all the bad things we had. So I was the house that I threw parties at, and I got away with murder that kids shouldn't probably deal with. I think kids need boundaries for sure. It's just a process in life, you know. And I smoked weed, and I was still good at my sport by doing it. I drank, I was still good at my sport and doing it. And they were experimenting other drugs like popping pills and stuff like that. I didn't do that. I was just smoking, drinking. And then one day they put a prank and put pills in my candy box, and I swallowed over 20 pills and ended up overdosing, and came back to life. And that was rock bottom. Like, and I think the saying that I truly thought of, I think I went to hell and back for sure. Like, you know, like, because I lost a lot of college offers, uh, and the route I had to go to definitely made me the person I am today. And I don't even know those people anymore. And I completely changed my circle. And that's what gave me a start to completely new life as well. You know, like it sucked that I've been through it, but that's that whole thing of losses I talked about, right? Like it's the losses. Like I took a fucking L for sure, like in life, you know, and it came back and completely like I like to tell anybody that asks that question, like that Ian that overdose died and a new one arose in for sure.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. And you completely changed, the people that you surrounded yourself with.
I
Don't even talk to those kids anymore, but I can guarantee that they know who you are.
For sure. I think one of them tried to hit me up on Facebook, and I was like, decline. Like, you know, like, you know, like, and it was me, like, on, I think my Bellator weigh-ins and stuff like that. And, yeah, you know, but like, my heart stopped, and they revived me, and they said they were going to give me compressions, and a heartbeat came back, and I came back. So that old version truly died, and I came back as a new person. I didn't even go to that school the next day. They expelled me from home and just like up, and I completely had to find a new way, and my life completely changed after that, man.
So that's obviously a strong why and a strong motivation to do the things that you wanted to accomplish moving forward, like fresh start, like you just said, like that guy, the guy before the incident died and a new one arose. But at the same time, as the years go on, you obviously have the passion, the intuition, like we talked about, to do what you want to do. How often does your why change? Because obviously there's the big why you do this, but at the same time, there's probably small ones that come by day, week by week.
For sure. Something, I mean, I have a business now. I have employees now, which I never thought I probably had. I get, it's like those little kid moments when you do a little clap. I get so excited. I'm like, oh, I got like 4 employees. You know, I had to pay them out, and I never felt so happy in my life to pay out people. And bro, it's such a joy, you know. And my why is to build up a lot of good generation. I mean, I'm already the leading club of sending kids into colleges already. I've only been going for 2 years. I have a lot of fighters coming down to get the wrestling help, and a lot of jiu-jitsu world champions try to come through. And my why, honestly, for all my kids that step on the mat is not just wrestling. That's why I said I was a coach / difference maker. Like a coach is like, all right, good job, man. Like, good job afterwards. And when you graduate, like, it's over. They're like, hey man, it's great having you part of the program, stuff like that. I've been there before, right? And stuff like that. But I'm a difference maker, man. Like when you graduate, when you leave my program, when you go to college, our relationship is just beginning. You know, I will always be there no matter what. If you call or not, I will always be there, always check up on you. Um, there's no place in the world that I won't travel to come get you if you need help. Um, that's my why. My why is not it's not just building champions on my and on the mats or and stuff like that or in the cage or when people come to me. It's building champions in life, man. Like that's it, dude. Like I love raising these kids and young women to be great athletes, but when you see kids that come out of my program, like they're going to be good human beings and will help you and to get the shirt off their back.
Which is an amazing mentality to have. It's awesome to see how that formulated throughout all of your experiences. Because you said it yourself. There's guys in whether it's in MMA or anything really that are kind of just in it for themselves. They're in money. Like they think they're the big time and they just blow people off. Why do you? Do you have any like personal like situations where like you felt that vibe?
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure, bro. Like for sure. I think Tony, was one of them. Unfortunately, like I'm not gonna beg to help you. Not it's just like if you can lead the horse to water, that saying, right? If you can lead a horse to water, if you don't drink it, it's their fault. And then at some point, like there's some people you just cannot help, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to do it for yourself, um and then getting older, I just learned that like, hey man, like it's when I was younger, I fought for myself.
Yeah.
Right. Like I had to. Like I was selfish, like I supposed to be, right? I'm single, like I didn't get married and everything else. It's funny. My last name is Butler, but I haven't met my dad. I finally met my dad like 3 years ago. I wanted to change my last name from Butler because I didn't know what Butler really stood for.
Right.
Now it's different. Now I'm married. I can carry on a legacy in my name. And then I start to realize that my last name Butler is just meant for just to serve other people. Right. So, and then selfish start becoming selfless.
Yep.
Right. And it's way more powerful. Like it's like even over the weekend when I was cutting weight and stuff like that, and I haven't did a same day weigh-in in like 15 years, and end up winning the world title. Like it's what made me proud was watching all my kids just repost like, oh my coach, like look at like that man, that was greater than putting the fucking gold around my neck and like that winning that tournament is supposed to be huge for my resume, huge for that, but I'm more proud that like I led by example. I'm going through the fire with you, and it's way more stronger when you fight for other people, man.
So what do you think of that when you see, I don't know, like the Paul brothers getting into this? Like they're making, whether you want to like
a lot of money or
not,
a lot
like
of money, man.
They're making YouTube boxing famous. Like it's getting up there. It's helping boxing almost.
It is, and so okay. So I'm not gonna knock it because it's helping other people make money, dude. Like it's good for you, right? And I can't say you're not a boxer because like I love Ben, I love Max actually, and I'm probably closer to him than I am Ben. He's a boxer. He's knocking somebody out and he's doing something and getting paid for it, right? Like, and what professional is, right? I would say I probably like Logan more than I like Jake because I just think Jake is a douchebag. Personality wise, I just do not hang out with those type of people. I would love to punch those kind of people in the face. To be honest, it's a little bit more easier to do it as well. But they're doing something good as well though too. Like it's like Connor, like when Connor got into sport, it was like a love-hate relationship because like, bro, like he was on fucking food stamps for crying out loud, right? I know how that is and stuff like that. And And I know, like, when you have confidence, I know I took psych. I know about mental warfare and stuff like that, and I respect where it comes from, but I I don't know, man. Like, it's so I know why Connor fights, just because, like, where he came from and stuff like that. But the Paul brothers were, like, literally like Disney fucking kids, bro. Like Disney fucking kids with a lot of money before, like they had money before and then they got into this. But hey, if they actually, like, the Floyd fight, does Floyd really need $20 million? No, right? He's just a good business guy, right? But Tyron, right, being from St. Louis and us being close and stuff like that, does he need the money? Yes. I'm not saying that he's broke now and stuff like that, but like us MMA fighters and stuff like that, we all, like, if you really know the sports world, like, we don't get paid shit. Like, like, okay, we can probably fight a nice house and stuff like that, but compared to boxing, though, when you're talking about millions to thousands, it's almost like dollars to pennies, like it's not even close. So if they're giving other fighters opportunities to make money like that and stuff like that, I'm happy for it. I would just disagree with some of the personality traits that they have. That's all.
How much of it do you think is promotion, though? Like, maybe he thinks, like, okay, everybody hates me. I'm just going to drive that force, till the cows come home, because that's what's driving in revenue. That's what's.
Connor is a really good, nice guy. I met in person. Also, Floyd's a good guy. A lot of the guys I met that were kind of, Kobe Covington is a really good guy. All for side, all for show, right? Now, it's hard to say, like, because I've seen Jake's interview, like, not even fight interviews, just talking, like, he's just like that, Like,
Yep.
Logan's actually, like, I seen some stuff, like, there was a thing about, like, it was a black kid wrestling, and they had to cut off his hair dreads because it was past his headgear line. And they didn't need to do that, dude. That's like part of somebody's culture and stuff like that. It's embarrassing. And he ended up winning the match and he was crying, like it's fucking awful. And Logan's actually a really good wrestler. He won a state title. And he came out and spoke out about it. Logan's actually a really good hearted guy. Like, I can tell, and I don't know. Obviously, even though they're brothers, you can tell that they had different upbringings, right? I have a kid named Kai that, like, grew up a little bit rougher, right? Sweetheart, dude. We'll give you a shirt on his back, but
yeah,
he's a little tough guy, though. He's just like, if you look at him wrong, he's just like, what are you looking at? I was back at his brother Ricky, sweetheart, love her, like, just like older brothers, and like they just get treated differently than probably younger siblings, like, and I think that's probably what happened, like, like, and probably, like, his brother was the man on campus, stuff like that. So, like, maybe you can think you can act like a douchebag because, like, my brother's gonna come save me, like, and stuff like that. And I think that trait probably covered over in life, and I can definitely tell. I'm a psych guy, for sure, So, like, I can definitely tell that, like, I mean, and he was also living off his brother too, like, and stuff like that, So, like, that just breeds different kinds of people, So yeah. Like, it's just a character trait for me, for sure. I would say I'm glad that they're in the sport, man, because they're bringing ice to it. So good for them.
I mean, they're bringing the fire for sure. I was always very curious to see, like, who's an ego, for the cameras and who isn't, behind the scenes. Because, like, for you, obviously, humble as hell. You've taken your experiences and, like you said, you're serving other people.
Yeah.
But hypothetically speaking, and this will be the last question I ask you. I don't want to take too much.
Okay.
I'm a D guy. I know you're probably worrying, looking at the clock. But
no, I'm good. I'm good for a little minute.
Perfect. So elaborate on this for me. Hypothetically speaking, if you were to fight a Jake Paul or someone, maybe even more humble than you are, someone the complete opposite, and you had to be like the quote unquote heel persona, to quote a wrestling term, you had to be the bad guy and you had to, like, cut promos and get people to hate you. How far would you be willing to go?
I wouldn't talk about family. I wouldn't talk about religion.
Of course.
Like that's the only way I'll take it. And I'm a big wrestling guy, bro. I'm from St. Louis, you know. Like we're talking like Cowboy Bob Orton and like Randy Orton back in the day. Like I've been to like No Mercies. I've been to Slumber Slams. I went to Raw when John Cena got drafted to Raw. I've been there when the ECW and WC like invaded the fucking like you know. Like I'm a big ass fucking wrestling guy, you know. So I would definitely know how to play a character for sure, but there's guidelines, you know. Like with the whole Connor Khabib, like it was kind of funny. I wouldn't say funny per se, but like when Khabib was smashing Connor, and he's just like talk now and stuff like that, and Connor's like, oh, it's just for show. Like Khabib wasn't playing those fucking games, dude. Like I know wrestling in the wrestling community, like people actually get killed over fucking matches. Like people don't know that like the mafia, like and stuff like that is in wrestling through Russia, right? And stuff like that. And to challenge somebody, talk to him about the religion, like they don't play any games, like, and he has to go back to that country, like they feel like we're not punks, right? So you actually like challenge like his manhood and stuff like that. Like when he threw the cheer at the bus and goes like, "Oh, you're here, get off the bus." You really think like they didn't let Khabib get off the bus? If he wanted to get off the bus on his own, he would have probably got off the fucking bus, right? Yep. And he's like, "Oh, you're scared and stuff like that." You know how hard he took that, right? You know, and his country's talking about like, oh, like you dishonor us, like you dishonor us because like, you know, they were talking about like, you know, so think about all those emotions that went into that fight. And he talked about the religion and stuff like that. And he had to represent his country. So like, there's some stuff that you just do not go over for sure, you know? So yeah. Like it'll probably be just like personal traits and stuff like that. And yeah, about your career or something like that. Or yeah, just like small stuff like that.
You got to take notes from some of the WWE guys.
Oh, dude, for sure. I was a big Ric Flair guy back in the day. Obviously I was a big Rock guy back in the day. I was a Stone Cold guy back in the day. Edge and Christian when they broke up and Edge was like the rated R superstar. Like I was, yeah. Like
greatest heel personas of all time.
Dude, great. And one of my favorite ones, unfortunately, he died, Chris Benoit. I met him before he died. Like bro, the crippler, like everybody hated him, dude. The Gap 2 fucking, like, you know, he was just, everybody thought he was an asshole. And then people started to love him a little bit, you know? And then obviously, like, one of my favorites that turned heel, like Kurt Angle, man. When Kurt Angle was a fucking bad guy. Dude, amazing. Like, and then like with Stone Cold, like he took the milk truck and fucking did like he was so like, it was so great. It was so great. It was so great. I fucking loved it. And it was amazing. So like, yeah. So I got my notes for sure.
So you actually met Chris Benoit before all that?
I met Chris Benoit. Dude, I met Stephanie. I hung out with the Big Show. Like I was the kid that knew what hotel they were at.
Oh yeah.
That stood out there, you know.
I know those kids. I was one of those kids.
I went to a lot of dark shows. It's funny. Do you still keep up with wrestling now or no?
Oh my god, dude! Roman Reigns, head of the table.
Okay, so like I don't keep up with some of the new stuff, but like at my gym I trained Kyle O'Reilly before,
oh, really?
like, and then Davey Richards when they were at Ring of Honor, right?
Yeah.
So I was doing jiu-jitsu with them, and they always ask me like, what move should I do? This is when I was an amateur, when I was only like 2 fights in, and they were like, oh, you think I should go for like this arm? This would be a cool finisher. They used to go to all my fights all the time. So like I am very deep in wrestling. I pulled back a lot from some of the newer guys and stuff like that. I was we're talking like when Raven was the hardcore fucking champion, but Big Boss Man, when Trish Stratus Lita was with the Hardys, Hardcore Holly, dude, a lot of those I've been to a lot of famous shows. Like I said, like I was there when ECW invaded it. I was there for the first ever draft when John Cena came out. He came out with the Spirit of St. Louis jersey. Talking like the old John Cena, like Thumb and Knox, when he actually fucking rapped when he came out, with his old theme song. That was my favorite John Cena. Test. I used to love Test when Test was the international intercontinental champ. Yeah, man, those were like the good old days. The good old days that I remember. I was at the fucking tables and ladder cheers when Edge and Christian. There was no mercy when they fucking fought each other, bro. And then he was on top of it and he did the concerto by himself on the ladder and he fell over. Like I was there at that one.
Wow, we could have an entirely different.
Yeah, man. Yeah, bro.
Event stories. There was one time I got mistaken as Chris Jericho at an airport in Jacksonville. This was like 2 years ago. The guy's got like 75 pounds of muscle on me. These two fanboys came up to me and they're like, "Hey, can we have your autograph? You got a big match coming up." And I'm like, "What are they talking about?" There was an event like the day before. They're like, "You're Chris Jericho, right?" I'm like, "No, not even close." I'm like, "You're gonna see Chris Jericho one day and you're gonna be like, oh my God, I was an idiot." That guy's like 75 pounds on me. We had like similar long blonde hair. Yeah. I don't know what it was.
Oh man, dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, dude, I've been through like that. I met so like I used to I hung out with Rhino before his T and like before he switched over the TNA. Yeah, man, I was at Bobby Lashley's first debut. Before like his undercard debut. I went to a lot of Sunday night heats. Obviously, if you're in the wrestling world, it's you go to Raw, they film Sunday night heat before all that, like yeah, man, like I've been to a lot of big shows, man. Like a lot of big shows. When Undertaker used to roll out on his motorcycle and everything, like all those, bro.
American Badass. That was
Undertaker. Yes.
So we are definitely going to have to do this again one day. We'll let you go. I know you got a lot of business to take care of. Ian, I can honestly say this was one of my favorite conversations on the show yet. Thanks so much for sharing your story and being gracious enough to come on today to talk to me here for the last hour and 15 minutes. It was a blast, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Like, no problem. No problem. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, get to it. Keep working hard. Keep being humble. And hopefully we can see you down the road.
For sure, Vern. For sure.